Good morning, and welcome to the second glorious day of the GSFC's industry presentation. I am happy, slightly amazed to see so many of you interested in risk first thing in the morning, though I am slightly modestly presuming a level of curiosity about the newest member of the GFSC's senior team. In my presentation, I'm aiming to cover three things: risk-based supervision, the role of the risk unit, and the role of the authorizations unit. So firstly, if you've heard about risk-based supervision at discussions, read about it on our website, perused in detail the paper Risk-Based Supervision in Guernsey, which the Commission published in February this year and can still be found on our website, or perhaps learnt more about it following the receipt of a firm risk assessment letter, then I apologise. For the first part of this presentation is going to be slightly repetitive to you. However, for the people who haven't done all of the above, I hope this next session might be enlightening, as I plan to touch on some of the key principles and reasons for risk-based supervision. The Commission is committed to carrying out good and effective regulation by working to ensure that we deliver high-quality prudential, financial crime and conduct supervision within the bailiwick of Guernsey. However, we, along with all other regulators in the world, need to be realistic. We don't have the resources to supervise every firm individually. And if we look to get these resources, perhaps through fees, we would bankrupt the industry, and we wouldn't be able to provide any guarantees. Therefore, we need to have a clear and systematic methodology to ensure that we apply the resources we have in the most effective and efficient manner. This is risk-based supervision. The supervisory approach works on the fact that not all firms are equal, that firms with a greater impact, the most significant firms, would have a greater capacity to harm the economy of the bailiwick. Therefore, we should spend more time in ensuring that these firms are correctly run. However, we also can't ignore the firms where there is a higher risk of failure or issues, and this is why our risk-based methodology, PRISM, uses both impact and probability risk in optimizing our resource allocation. To be clear, we are not a zero-failure regime. Some firms will and must be allowed to fail in order to maintain market disciplines. We have also been challenged on why we don't spend more time looking at the smaller firms, as these firms potentially have less resources for key controls such as compliance or training. Whilst these firms may have a higher probability of risk, their failure, whilst distressing for all, would not have the same impact on the economy of the bailiwick. Therefore, we have a lower risk appetite for significant issues at higher impact firms relative to issues at lower impact firms. For these smaller firms, we are aiming to avoid sector-wide issues, such as widespread mis-selling, but not individual failure. PRISM is both a system and methodology that allows us to use the data we receive from firms to assess their current impact level and ensure we have the right engagement level for each firm. It provides a structure to our supervisory activities, which enables us to ensure consistency across firms and sectors and aids in the transparency of our actions and processes. A key aspect of this consistency is the panel held following each firm risk assessment visit, where the judgments and proposed actions of our supervisors are challenged to ensure they are fair and consistent, not only for the sector, but also for the bailiwick. Our supervisors receive alerts from the data that you submit in your regulatory return. They also get information on market activities, and they will keep up to date with changes to the structure or people at each firm. These alerts will trigger the consideration of risk at that entity, enabling reactive supervision for the smaller firms in the bailiwick. PRISM asks supervisors to make judgments on a range of risk types for each firm across all the sectors, which enables structured consideration of the same risks for the whole of the bailiwick. Finally, all of this information is recorded on the PRISM system, allowing us to ensure risks are being mitigated, progress tracked, and where relevant, trends analysed to identify the unknown unknowns. If you include thematic work undertaken by each of our supervisory divisions during the year, you can see the full supervision cycle explained on this diagram. I also wanted to mention something about the last box, the risk mitigation programme. This is where the Commission, having identified issues at a firm which pose a risk above our risk appetite, ask the firm to undertake specific actions to mitigate this risk. This is a standard tool of a supervisor and reflects the trust the Commission places in the management of the firm to address the risk we have identified. In the last 12 months, our supervisors have identified 273 RMP actions for our firms across all risk categories. A significant portion of these actions have been respect of financial crime risks. Now, whilst this is influenced by the fact that we are an international finance centre, it would still suggest that a lot of firms have further work to do. I would therefore encourage everyone to listen carefully to the presentation following this from our financial crime team, who are highlighting the key areas where they have identified weaknesses or issues at the firms they have visited. From the remaining risks, you can see that the operational, governance and conduct are areas where we regularly find that firms are not mitigating their risks appropriately. This could be because they are risks which are common to all firms in the bailiwick, but it re-emphasises the importance of being alert to poor customer conduct, weak governance, or frequent operational issues at your firms. One last point to note. Of the 273 actions which were identified by supervisors, only 7 actions were referrals to enforcement, which is less than 3%, which supports the message that I know Simon Godian gave to the industry and gave yesterday, that this is a tool of the last resort for the Commission and is only used when we find extreme bad practice or material and continual breaches of the rules and regulations of the bailiwick. So that's risk-based supervision. But what is the role of the risk unit in the Commission? Well, in a 3-line of defence model, where supervisors are the first line, risk is the second line of defence for our risk-based supervisory approach, and it forms part of the internal challenge and good governance which the Commission operates. If any of you were here yesterday to listen to William's speech, you will have heard him emphasise a number of ways in which good governance can be maintained, and risk is a key part of this for the Commission. The first part is risk-taking. The Commission does not say do not take risk, but it focuses on understanding the risks you are taking. It is inherent in the name risk-based supervision that we are taking risks ourselves, and the risk function is here to ensure that we at the Commission fully understand the risks we are taking. Secondly, that PRISM is a methodology and process. and a process will only work if it is actually being followed. Risk ensures that we are following the risk-based supervision processes we have put out and are being applied properly throughout the Commission. This ensures that PRISM is working effectively. The next one is constructive challenge. At a recent training session, it was highlighted that a team needs a range of things to be effective. One example given was trust, but the other thing that every team needs is conflict, or more appropriately, constructive challenge. Without this, we don't recognise when the status quo is concerning or even dangerous, and we are one of the voices, and risk is one of the voices of this internal challenge at the Commission. But I hope we do it in a nice way. Management information. Risk management is not effective if no one has a clear sight of what is actually happening. We provide the management information throughout the Commission on our risks, but we also aim to look for trends or developments in the risk profile of our sectors to try and identify the next key risk area. We try to keep everybody informed about what the risks are within each of the sectors in the bailiwick. Development and change, the fun terms. A key to good risk management is flexibility. Risk in our financial sectors do not stay the same, and therefore we should not. We need to be aware of how we can or should develop to stay on top of these future risks or developments. A key one was one that was mentioned yesterday with robo-advice or fintech within the banking and insurance sectors. And finally, risk is looking to be the canary in the mine for the Commission and potentially the bailiwick, though perhaps we're hoping for slightly less dire consequences for the canary. So that is the role of the risk unit. But some of you may question why I'm also talking about authorisations, which at the heart of it is a first line of the Commission. Risk is the second line of defence, but it's the second line of defence for our supervisory approach. Authorisations do not use PRISM or risk-based supervision, but they are our gatekeeper to any new entrants in the market. Due to my past regulatory experience, I have been asked to oversee and guide our authorisations unit, which is headed by Alison Gavey. So let's talk about the role of the authorisations unit. Whilst many of you will have seen members of our great help desk last year and have probably talked to them since then, the authorisation unit also plays a larger role at the Commission. At the core of it, our centralised authorisations unit is the first point of call for any new entrants, either known or unknown, to the financial services in the bailiwick. The reviewing of applications and personal questionnaires is their specialist subject, and they know everything there is to know about the online portal. In the last year, we have processed over 8,000 online forms and 500 applications across all sectors. When the team is reviewing an application, the key question they are looking to answer is whether the applicant has demonstrated how they meet the minimum criteria for licensing for that sector. This is key to any firm joining the bailiwick and does include a consideration of how that business may affect the reputation of the bailiwick. If we believe that question has not been answered, we will ask for more information. So I would encourage anyone who is making a new application to critically evaluate not only whether they have provided all the information detailed within our forms and guidance, but whether you have demonstrated that the proposed business meets the minimum criteria in that sector's rules. As always, should you need any help in progressing an application or issues with the portals or systems, our lovely ladies and gentlemen are on the phones here to help. Thank you for your time and attention, and now there is a short period for questions.